Alright y'all, here's the deal. I put together a list of my go-to French Quarter spots. No reservation, no BS. Just good food, strong drinks, and real deal vibes. I ran it through AI for ranking, and what came out is 20 joints I trust with my reputation, ranked by how much they matter to the life of the French Quarter. So, bon appetit y'all. Mississippi River Bottom, or just MRB if you're in the know. It's like the Quarter's living room. Gritty, loud, half drunk, and always has a cold beer waiting on you. It's the kind of place where you might see a tattooed line cook playing cornhole with a tourist in seersucker shorts. And somehow, they're both having the time of their lives. This bar ain't built for Instagram. It's built for living, for shucking oysters in the back courtyard while a local blues band saws away like their rent depends upon it. Which, let's be honest, it probably does. MRB holds the line between the Quarter's past and its overly polished presence. It's a dive with dignity, where the drink's strong, the staff don't take shit, especially from you, and the vibe says you're welcome after you earn it. That's cultural importance you can feel in your liver and your soul. Café Pontaba isn't just a place to grab red beans and rice with a Sazerac chaser. It's sitting on some of the most culturally loaded real estate in the American South. Right there on Jackson Square, tucked under those cast iron balconies of the Pontaba buildings, which, by the way, were built by a badass Creole baroness who basically said, "Screw it, I'll do it myself." Café Pontaba keeps that old New Orleans spirit alive. Tourists and locals, elbow to elbow, eating jambalaya, while street musicians wail out when the Saints go marching in, just 10 feet away. You can sip a cocktail, stare at the St. Louis Cathedral, and watch a tarot card reader light up a Marlboro Red like it's part of the ceremony. It's the Quarter's front porch, y'all. Equal parts grit, grandeur, and gumbo. That's culture you can taste, and hear, and damn near time travel through. Killer Poor Boys, inside Aaron Rose, ain't just slinging sandwiches, they're throwing down a culinary remix right in the heart of the French Quarter. This ain't your granddaddy's poor boy, unless your granddaddy liked his roast beef with pickled daikon and sriracha aioli. They took the most sacred Louisiana lunch and gave it a punk rock twist, without losing its soul. Tucked in the back of Aaron Rose, a bar that smells like whiskey, beignets, and last night's mistakes, Killer Poor Boys represents that sweet spot where old school grit meets new school grit with a culinary degree. It's where bartenders eat, musicians refuel, and locals actually go when they get sick of the tourist traps. They ain't trying to impress the Travel Channel. They're just feeding the French Quarter's hungry heart with bold, fearless flavor. That makes it as important as hell, because it proves that this city ain't a museum, not entirely at least. It's still breathing, boozing, and cooking like it has something to prove. The Quartermaster, aka the Nelly Deli, is the drunk aunt of New Orleans food culture. Loud, unapologetic, open all night, and always has a hot meal waiting on you, no matter how bad your decisions have been that evening. This little 24/7 corner joint ain't trying to win James Beard Awards. It's too busy serving up greasy, glorious, heart-clogging comfort food to the night shift, the Bourbon Street Wanderers, and every hungover sax player in a 10-mile radius. You stumble in at 3 a.m., half dead, and leave with a meatloaf plate and renewed purpose in life. The Quartermaster keeps the Quarter grounded. While other spots chase tourists and trends, Nelly holds the line for the locals, the service industry lifers, and the weirdos who make New Orleans what it is. It's the city's greasy spoon confessional, and every bite has a story behind it. Birdie Mart is the French Quarter's greasy little miracle in a paper bag. It's a corner store deli with a soul, and if you know, you know. No tables, no fanfare, just a counter, a cooler full of beer, and a kitchen in the back cranking out some of the best damn sandwiches in the city. This is a spot where you can grab an all that jazz po' boy that's got so much stuff packed into it. Shrimp, ham, turkey, cheese, mushrooms, and that voodoo sauce. It ought to come with a cardiologist and a nap. And yet somehow, it works. Like jazz, like gumbo, like New Orleans itself actually, Birdie Mart is open late, cash friendly, and full of flavor and fun. You'll see drag queens, bartenders, tourists, and tattooed cooks all lined up together, drunk and hungry and happy. It's a street-level shrine to the quarter's realness, feeding the night and soaking up the sins. Amen. Dennys isn't some highfalutin white tablecloth joint. It's where the locals go when they want a mountain of seafood without the fancy airs or sticker shock, because it's one of the few places in the quarter that still feels like it's cooking for us.
Now, people come here for a lot of things. Their famous fried seafood platters, their golden fried onion rings, and of course, their tasty, tasty shrimp. But today we're talking about something even more serious. Their barbecued oysters.
These barbecue oysters are a whole vibe. They're freshly shucked, bathed in a rich, buttery garlic blend, dusted with Romano cheese and spices, then broiled till the edges get that crispy golden glow. You scoop them up with thick slices of toasted French bread. And that sauce? That sauce will haunt your dreams in the best way possible, my brother. Find yourself wandering through the French Quarter, wondering where to get oysters from someone who actually respects the oyster? Skip the overpriced nonsense and find your way down here to Dennys. Alright, y'all. NOLA's Por Boy is the everyman sandwich shop, located smack in the middle of the Bourbon Street madness. It ain't pretty, it ain't fancy, and it damn sure ain't trying to be. But it is slinging fried shrimp, roast beef, and hot sausage po' boys faster than you can say laissez-les bon temps roulé with a mouthful of French bread. This joint is holding down the tradition in a part of the quarter that's more light-up daiquiris than local flavors these days. It's a street-level reminder that New Orleans ain't just about fine dining and jazz brunches. It's about grabbing a po' boy wrapped in butcher paper and eating it on the curb, while brass bands and bachelorette parties collide all around you. NOLA Por Boys is where tourists stumble in and leave with a better understanding of what New Orleans food tastes like. It's fried, it's messy, it's affordable, and it doesn't give a damn what you're wearing as long as you're wearing shoes and a shirt. And that, my friends, is NOLA culture tucked into a French bread loaf. The Portico is like the grizzled old sailor of the French Quarter. Dimly lit, a little rough around the edges, and full of salty characters. It's been serving up giant burgers and loaded baked potatoes since before half the bars on Bourbon Street figured out what a blender was. It planted a flag for the locals in a part of town that's mostly been swallowed by tourist traps and overpriced cocktails. While everything else got fancier or faker, Portico just kept doing what it does best. Big ass burgers, strong drinks, and zero tolerance for your nonsense. It's the quarter's go-to for bartenders getting off work, musicians on a budget, and regulars who don't want their cheeseburger with a side of influence. Portico ain't trying to be cool. It is cool. In the same way New Orleans is cool. A little chaotic, deeply satisfying, and proud of its damn self. Laura's Candies is the sweet tooth of the French Quarter, and it's been melting hearts and molars since way back in 1913. This place ain't just slinging sugar, it's serving up edible tradition, wrapped in wax paper and smelling like heaven. If heaven was dipped in praline and coated in chocolate. Laura's keeps one of New Orleans' oldest culinary traditions alive. The art of candy making with a southern soul. We're talking legit, old school pralines, made the real way, by hand, in copper pots. Not that mass-produced mess. You walk in and the smell alone will slap your childhood memories straight into consciousness. Locals bring their kids there, tourists stumble in and get converted, and everybody leaves with a bag of sugar and a story to tell. It ain't just a candy shop, it's a legacy, one sweet bite at a time. In a city built on flavor, Laura's Candies is part of the foundation. The Clover Grill is one of Bourbon Street's last real deal, no frills, greasy spoons. And culturally, it punches way above its weight. This ain't just a place to grab a burger at 2 a.m. It's a French Quarter institution where the line between short order cook and stand-up comic is blurry as hell. Drag queens, off-duty bartenders, wide-eyed tourists, and locals with nowhere better to be all end up crammed into those little chrome stools, sharing space, sass, and a whole lot of griddle grease. The Clover refuses to gentrify. It's proudly queer, proudly weird, and proudly open late. In a city that thrives on characters, this place is a stage, and everybody's got a role. You come for the hash browns, but you stay for the shade, the stories, and the sense that this ain't just a diner, it's a snapshot of the soul of New Orleans. One egg sandwich and glitter bomb at a time. Coups Place captures the raw, unfiltered spirit of the French Quarter. Equal parts grit, gumbo, and good whiskey. It's tucked away on Decatur Street, just a stumble from Jackson Square. Coups Place ain't trying to be cute or cater to influencers. It's where locals, off-duty bartenders, and savvy tourists go when they want a real plate of rabbit and sausage jambalaya, a cold beer, and zero pretense. This place is part of the Quarter's post-Hurricane Katrina resilience story. It didn't just survive the storm, it kept feeding folks, keeping the lights on, with a generator and gumbo. Inside, it feels like a pirate bar met a dive diner and had a baby raised on Zeterans and sarcasm. There's a jukebox, a dartboard, and the kind of barkeeper who will keep calling you honey and dumbass in the same sentence with love. More than just a bar or a restaurant, Coups is a cultural checkpoint, a gateway to understanding the French Quarter beyond the beignet and balcony tourist scene. It's the kind of joint where you're likely to overhear somebody planning a jazz funeral or arguing about who makes the best red beans on Esplanade. In short, Coups Place is where the Quarter gets back to its roots. Loud, soulful, delicious, and real as hell. Tucked into a no-frills building on St. Louis Street since 1950, Johnny's has been slinging overloaded poor boys to dock workers, cab drivers, cops, drunks, and hungover tourists for generations. This place isn't just serving sandwiches, it's serving history on French bread. A true mom-and-pop operation, Johnny's kept it old school, while the Quarter around it turned into a theme park. You walk in, and it still smells like hot fry oil and roast beef debris. The menu's a mile long, and they'll stuff anything into a loaf. Shrimp, alligator sausage, ham, catfish, meatballs, oysters, even fried chicken if you ask nicely. It's the kind of spot where the napkins are thin, the pickles are thick, and the service is fast. Johnny's captures the soul of New Orleans food. Big flavors, cheap prices, and zero ego. It's a cultural anchor because it treats poor boys the way they were meant to be treated. Not as trendy street food, but as a working man's meal, messy and glorious. You don't just eat at Johnny's, you participate in a ritual that ties you to the long, delicious tradition of this city's culinary backbone. The Napoleon House is one of the few places where you can sip a Pim's cup in a crumbling 200-year-old building and feel like you've time traveled straight into the heart of old New Orleans. Built around 1797, this weathered beauty at the corner of Chartres and St. Louis Street was originally the home of Mayor Nicholas Girard, who famously offered it as a refuge for Napoleon Bonaparte after his exile, hence the name. Spoiler alert, Napoleon never showed up, but the myth, it stuck harder than the humidity. What makes Napoleon House matter isn't just the legend, it's the vibes. The peeling plaster walls, the ancient wooden bar, the classical music wafting through the courtyard. It all oozes old world elegance with a patina of bohemian decay. It's where poets, painters, pirates, and politicians have knocked elbows over muffulettas and cheap wine for generations. The bar's signature drink, the Pim's Cup, is as much a rite of passage as a refreshment. Light, herbal, and sneaky as hell, it's the official cocktail of people who want a day drink with a little dignity. But beyond the booze and the buzz, Napoleon House tells a deeper story about New Orleans. How it clings to its European past, romanticizes its own mythology, and welcomes you into the chaos with a wink and a warm baguette. It ain't just a bar or a restaurant. It's a mood, a museum, a monument to what the French Quarter used to be, and still is, if you know where to look. Felix's Oyster Bar is where the city's raw, salty seafood soul gets shucked, slurped, and washed down with a cold beer. No frills, no fluff, just Gulf Coast grit on the half shell. Opened in 1940, Felix's helped pioneer the modern oyster bar as we know it, setting the stage for the raucous seafood slinging spectacle that defines New Orleans shellfish culture today. Before charbroiled oysters became a tourist trend and cocktail sauce came in a squeeze bottle, Felix was already doing the real work, shucking them fast, serving them fresh, and handing out crackers like communion wafers. Sitting at the oyster bar here is a full-on cultural experience. You're elbow to elbow with locals, out-of-towners, and bartenders on their break, all watching a veteran shucker pop open dozens of briny beauties while talking smack and pouring horseradish like he's conducting an orchestra. Felix's is also the OG rival of Acme Oyster House across the street, and the locals still pick sides like it's an SEC football rivalry. But Felix has always had a little more grit, a little less polish, and that's exactly why it matters. It's not trying to be fancy, it's trying to be real. And in a French Quarter that sometimes gets polished up for the tourists, places like Felix keep it honest. It's not just an oyster bar, it's a front row seat to one of the oldest rituals in New Orleans. Fresh seafood, cold beer, loud laughter, and no reservations required. Acme Oyster House is the loud, proud, slurping on down heartbeat of New Orleans seafood tradition. Since 1910, Acme has been serving up raw oysters, poor boys, and gumbo with a side of sass and spectacle, helping define what it feels like to eat in the French Quarter. It all started as the Acme Cafe on Raw Street, but after a fire in the 1920s, they moved to Iberville Street, right where it still sits today, with a line out the door that tells you this ain't no secret. That neon sign is like a beacon for hungry folks who want to belly up to the oyster bar, order a dozen on the half shell, and watch the shuckers work like jazz musicians with knives. And when charbroiled oysters exploded in popularity, Acme made sure they were at the front of the flavor train, dripping garlic butter and Parmesan all the way. Acme is a place where old school locals and first time tourists meet in the middle over seafood platters, napkins be damned. It helped shape the Quarter's modern food identity: fast pace, no reservations, big flavor, and bigger personality. For over a century, Acme has been dishing out the kind of hearty, working class Creole fare that built this city, and still fuels it. Pat O'Brien's helped turn New Orleans drinking into a global spectacle, and did it with flair, fire, and one hell of a cocktail glass. Founded as a speakeasy during Prohibition and legalized in 1933, Pat O's is the birthplace of the Hurricane, that sweet, rum-fueled monster served in that iconic curvy glass that practically screams, "I'm about to make bad decisions in public." But it's more than just a drink. Pat O'Brien's is a scene. It's where generations of locals and tourists have gathered to toast, flirt, sing, and stumble their way through the Quarter's legendary nightlife. The Courtyard Bar, with its flaming fountain is pure French Quarter magic. Lush plants, wrought iron, and open-air debauchery all rolled into one sweaty, joyful mess. And inside, that dueling piano bar has been ringing out sing-alongs and spontaneous Mardi Gras moments since long before karaoke was ever a thing. Patos represents the Quarter's ability to turn even drinking into an art form. It helps set the tone for Bourbon Street's carnival vibe, and it also honors the city's speakeasy roots. When bars had passwords and cocktails had soul, people don't just go for the hurricane, they go for the atmosphere, the music, the memories they may or may not remember. The Old Absinthe House is where booze, legend, and literary genius all collide. Sitting on the corner of Bourbon and Bienville since the 1800s, this joint isn't just a bar, it's a living, breathing relic of New Orleans' artistic soul. Pirates, presidents, and poets have all passed its creaky doors, chasing the green fairy, or ducking the law, or both. Originally built in the early 1800s as a grocery, it became a saloon by the 1830s, and eventually the place to drink absinthe, the mysterious once-banned liqueur with a reputation for madness and inspiration. The drink gave the bar its name and its identity, and by the time the 19th century turned the corner, the Old Absinthe House had already become a legend. Some say, incorrectly, that Jean Lafitte met with Andrew Jackson upstairs to plan the Battle of New Orleans. They say ghosts still hang out by the bar. Oscar Wilde, Mark Twain, B.T. Barnum, and Tennessee Williams all drank here. But beyond the myths, this place is important because it refuses to die. It survived Prohibition, hurricanes, and the kind of Bourbon Street chaos that would have swallowed a lesser joint. It's still dimly lit, still filled with old chandeliers, absinthe fountains, and names carved into the bar by folks too drunk to remember. Lafitte's Blacksmith Shop is the oldest bar in the city, and maybe the whole damn country, that still pours drinks by candlelight and dares you to feel the ghost. Built sometime in the 1770s, this creaky old brick building at the corner of Bourbon and St. Philip's isn't just a bar, it's a living artifact. It's one of the few remaining examples of French colonial architecture in the city, and stepping inside feels like walking into a pirate's lair, frozen in time. Named after the infamous pirate Jean Lafitte, legend says he and his brother Pierre used this place as a front for their smuggling operations. Whether that's historically airtight or not, it doesn't really matter, because the spirit of the legend is alive and well. Candlelight still flickers off those ancient brick walls. Lefits holds tight to the French Quarter's rough and tumble, shadowy, romantic past. While other bars chase gimmicks and neon, Lafitte's leans into its creaks, its cobwebs, and its history. It's a sanctuary for history buffs, poets, drunks, and ghost hunters alike. You're not just sipping bourbon, you're time traveling. In a city obsessed with its own mythology, Lafitte's Blacksmith Shop is the mythology. It's New Orleans in brick and mortar. Mysterious, decadent, dangerous, and just barely holding it all together by charm, legend, and just a little bit of candle wax. Central Grocery is the birthplace of the muffuletta, one of New Orleans' most iconic sandwiches, and a delicious symbol of the city's immigrant melting pot past. Opened in 1906 by Sicilian immigrant Salvador Lupo, Central Grocery sits on Decatur Street like a quiet guardian of old world flavor in a neighborhood that's always buzzing with noise, booze, and brass bands. This place didn't invent Italian groceries in America, but it did take a round Sicilian loaf, pile it high with cured meats and cheese, and slather it with a garlicly, briny olive salad that changed the game forever. The muffuletta wasn't just lunch, it was survival food for dock workers and longshoremen. Portable, filling, and bold enough to punch through the New Orleans heat. Central Grocery is a reminder that the French Quarter isn't just French, it's Sicilian, Spanish, African, Caribbean, and everything in between. The store still looks and feels like a time capsule. Shelves packed with olive oils, canned anchovies, and Italian imports that haven't changed labels since World War II. And the line, even when it snakes out the door, is full of locals who grew up on muffulettas and tourists who heard the legend and want a bite of it. In short, Central Grocery is more than a deli. It's a cornerstone of New Orleans food culture, a place where Sicilian roots meets Crescent City soul and produced something so uniquely delicious that it became part of the city's identity. You come here for the sandwich, but you leave with a story. Café du Monde is the powdered sugar dusted heartbeat of New Orleans tradition. A place where coffee, culture, and chaos all collide under a green and white striped awning. Opened since 1862 at the edge of Jackson Square, Café du Monde isn't just a coffee stand. It's a ritual. It's where generations of locals and tourists have come for one thing: a hot beignet, a café au lait, and a taste of the city's very soul. What makes it special isn't just the food, though those beignets are fried perfection, covered in enough sugar to choke a government mule. It's the experience, the clatter of plates, the jazz musicians holding court on the sidewalk, the powdered sugar storms exploding every time somebody laughs too hard. It's a sensory overload, in the best way possible. Rich, poor, drunk, sober, dressed to the nines, or wearing a tank top from Bourbon Street, everyone is equal here. And that chicory coffee, it's not just a drink. It's a nod to the city's French roots, Civil War survival, and Creole coffeehouse culture, all in one bitter, earthy sip. In a quarter full of constant reinvention, Café du Monde is the anchor. It's where memories are made and where every powdered sugar handprint on a shirt tells a story. You haven't really been to New Orleans until you want a little powdered sugar home. Alright y'all, here's the deal. This right here is my list of favorite spots to eat and drink in the French Quarter. Now look, I know I probably ruffled a few feathers and left out some legendary places. And that's alright. This ain't the 10 Commandments carved in oyster shell. It's just one hungry fella's love letter to the Vieux Carré. The rankings, yeah, they're AI generated. Could they go another way? Absolutely. That's half the fun. So here's what I want from you. Let me have it. Who'd I miss? Who has to be number one? And what place do you think carries the most cultural weight in this wild-ass wonderful neighborhood? Hit that comment section like you're slapping a poor boy down on a bar napkin and tell me what you think. And hey, this ain't just a list, it's an invitation. Gulf Coastal Connections ain't about me talking at y'all. It's about us building a little community of folks who love this beautiful, weird, magical stretch of shoreline. So, if there's a place anywhere along the Gulf Coast you want me to check out, dive bar, shrimp shack, haunted honky-tonk, you just holler. I'm all ears, and a half tank of gas away from rolling up on it. Now, let's get to talking, y'all. Thank you for watching. If you're hungry for more of this strange and beautiful chaos that is the Gulf Coast, and if you haven't hit that subscription button yet, now's the time. Don't overthink it, just do it. Until next time, folks, this is Gulf Coastal Connections. Stay curious, stay hungry, and stay salty.
Every Friday at the Hollywood, they brought me in to see her. Asked me if I would do a number, and I sang with all my might. She said, "Tell me, are you a Christian child?" And I said, "What?" "Yeah, you ain't." Walking in Memphis, walking with my feet 10 feet off the beat. Walking in Memphis, do I really feel the way I feel? Put on my blue suede shoes and I boarded the plane. Touchdown in the land of the Delta Blues. Oh,